Hi guys, welcome back to part 2. I'm on lockdown and I'm playing with textures. So in part 1 we went through a number of textures that I photographed in and outside my home. And now we're going to look like how these textures affect a portrait. I'm going to use a dark background portrait. Here it is. And we're going to just look at improving that plain background and bringing in a little bit of creative texture. So I've just grabbed a handful of nearly a dozen textures from part 1, and we're going to start with the amazing one, which is Granny's wallpaper. So just as a quick reminder, when we're moving a texture onto an image, I'm in my left hand menu. I click on the move tool. I'm grabbing the texture. I'm on a mouse, so I'm keeping my left click down. I'm going up and bringing the cursor down and then dropping. And this is my texture here. So I'm going to do Control T. Just going to enlarge that texture a little bit. And let's see how it affects the image. So first of all, I'm going to come down with the opacity. I'm going to click in the bottom right on the mask icon, which is the white rectangle with the little bite mark out. I'm going to go into a dark brush, black brush, and I'm just quickly having a little shimmy around with the brush just to see what effect we get. So you nearly always have to take a texture away from skin. Just let me play a little bit more with this, maybe bring it down slightly more. It's beautiful and subtle across the background, and it just sort of almost gives it a little bit of a stately home air, doesn't it? Obviously I need to just improve a little bit of the masking, but let's see what the blend modes do. So I'm going on back down into the right hand side into my layer palette. I'm clicking where it says normal. I'm getting the list of blend modes and I've just clicked onto soft light. Now this gives a lovely feeling. I can come up and down with my opacity to either keep the wallpaper really subtle or just to sort of give it a little bit more pop. But it makes a wonderful texture on a plain background. Let's see what screen does. Now screen's a little bit too powerful. Come down with the opacity, even softer with that pattern. And finally let's look at multiply. Well, multiply's not giving me anything, but we are only at 12% with the opacity slider, so I'm going to take it back up. There we go. Can you see when that suddenly came in? I'm just going to remask tiny little bit there and then just soften that out. Now I like that. I like how that feeling almost gives more grandeur to the portrait. But when I've got a pattern, it may be that part of the pattern is coming out the head of the model. So I'm going to click on the link, the little chain link between the image, the texture image of the wallpaper and the mask. So if you look into the bottom right hand side of the screen, I'm going to click and that little chain is broken, which means I can move the pattern. Can you see? I can move this pattern around and my mask remains in place. I can also see I haven't masked very well either. So I'm going to bring that back in and I'm just going to take a little bit more off there and a little bit more off there. And I quite like this motif coming in here. But it's a nice little tip. I'll do it again. I click on the chain. Then I've gone into my move tool, I've clicked on my texture and I can move the texture around without that mask moving. So I think Granny's wallpaper's a winner. I'm just going to drag that away, take the wallpaper off. What's next? Oh my gosh, it's the Patton Glass from the little cupboard. Right, let's drag that on. Now we've got a light side and a dark side. So I'm just going to do my Control T and I'm just dragging it out the other way. So I'm actually matching my light to the light source within the portrait. I'll click on that. I'm coming down with the opacity. That's an interesting one. Sometimes when we say interesting, we might mean it's not the best. But if I bring away, again, very quick little mask, and I'm going to extend the mask just to softly blush a bit away there. Now that's quite a good one. So rather than just playing with the opacity, what does soft light do? Soft light is giving the appearance of beautiful ruffled curtains at the back, isn't it, guys? It's not working very well as it cuts across her down here, so let me just tap away and get rid of that. But that really looks like it's almost like a stage, and it's rippled dark velvet grey curtains. That's a winner. So rather than soft light, let's look at screen. Take the opacity down. That's a nice one as well. Who would have thought that the drinks cupboard would have given such a nice effect? So rather than screen, let's bob it onto multiply. And again, very subtle. I think I would probably want to mask a little bit more carefully around here. But it's just, it fits nicely, doesn't it? Just there. Let me turn the eye off so you can see without and you can see with. So who would have thought that would have been nice, eh? Well, we live and learn. Right, what's next? The window ledge. So this is a terracotta tile at the back of the house on the window. So I've dragged it on, Control T, transform. Let's come down with the opacity. Oh, I'm loving this. Straight away, fine art background. Should have been 200 quid that, shouldn't it? Just making it bigger so I can get, I think these are hairs and bits of grass. So I can actually clone those out or remove them. But let me just take a tiny bit off the skin. And I'm going to come much bigger and just lighten a tiny bit. Well, I like that. Just have a little more play with the opacity. Very subtle and nice. So I'm going to try soft light. Take the opacity back up. Very painterly. Very nice. Let's try screen. Take the opacity down. Again, that's a nice one, isn't it? So the old roof tile has been repurposed. It's an absolutely super texture. Now, I'm coming up, I've gone into multiply blend mode. I'm coming up to maximum opacity. Just turn it off and turn it on. And it's added, it's almost like a wraparound chiaroscuro shadowing to the figure. That's quite pretty, but it's making more of a dark portrait. But that's a good one to note. So let's drag away that window ledge tile. And what have we got next? Paving stone. So this was a wet paving stone. So it's got a little bit of a darker shade. So let's pull that on. First thing, go down with the opacity. Oh, this is another nice one, isn't it? Bob a mask on. Click on the brush tool. Make my brush a little bit more manageable. And just take away just a little bit. I like that. I mean, again, it's very individual. I do like my painterly feeling pieces, and I do like textures disappearing, and I like to lose edges sometimes. None of them particularly what Camera Club judges like, But we don't always do things for competition. Sometimes it's nice to feed the soul and do what you want to do. So, 38% opacity, Paving Stone. That's a cracker. Let's have a look. Soft light. Oh, that's nice and subtle. That's like one of those Oliphant, really expensive oil-painted backgrounds. That's beautiful, isn't it? I'm liking it. Right, soft light works. What about screen? A bit much. We come down with screen. Do you know, that's a winner as well, isn't it? Let's try multiply. Now, our last multiply went really dark Rembrandt. Let's look again as I take the opacity up. Yes, it maybe goes a little bit too dark, but if that's the effect you like, the effect that you might not like is a pockmark shoulder. Let me just take that out. That's better. But yeah, Paving Stone after the rain. That works, doesn't it? Right, next, mottled carpet. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure about this one. So we've dragged, we've rotated, we've pulled it over. I really don't like it already. Let me come down with the opacity. Oh, well. Well, I do like being proved wrong. That's not bad. It's just... It's like a bloody rug behind her, isn't it? Come on, we can do better, can't we? Soft light. Now that's better, isn't it? Let's turn it off. Plain. Bob it on. Slight, beautiful texture. We're liking that. So we almost know that screen is going to be a disaster, don't we? Take it down. It's alright. Doesn't really do anything. Try multiply. Take the opacity back up, and do we get that lovely wraparound shadow? Again, it just exposes where the masking hasn't really come off all the skin, but this gives this wonderful oil paint brush stroke in the background, which I really find pleasing. So everything isn't lost with the mottled carpet. Dad's shed. I bet this one turns us a bit painterly. Drag on, Control T, drag down, transform it across, double click. Let's go straight into soft light. Let's just put a mask on. Now the reason I'm doing a mask from scratch every time is that I'm actually taking off a different amount of the texture. I'm not just going for one mask will fit everything. So this has given a sort of lovely decay feeling to that background. Let's look screen. Oops, nope. Take screen really down. No, not for me. Let's try multiply. Now this is subtle, isn't it? If I come lower, hardly any. And as I go up higher, I'm just getting that lovely little background in there. So I would say that one definitely works. Good one for the shed. Right, Cork Pinboard. Oh gosh, is that one going to work here? Pull it on, bob it on, turn us round. Well, it's certainly a bright one. What we've learnt with bright ones is that we need to go into multiply or we need to go into soft light. Well, this one doesn't work on skin, does it? Let me just take a little bit more off. That does work nicely in the background though, but I'm going to add a little bit more back. This is the beauty of using a mask, that you can just take in and take back out, and it's that non-destructive edit. I quite like that. Let's just, because we need to, don't we, try screen. Oh, that's painful, isn't it? Soft light. Now this could work. Let's just drop our opacity. Let's keep coming down until we've just got a lovely softness. Take it all off, add it back. Now that one's subtle. We've got 22% opacity on it. I think that one works. So drag away Cork Pinboard, concrete. Now concrete, I would have thought, would perform in a very similar way to that roof tile and the paving stone. You'd have thought so. So just going to come down with the opacity. Let's bob a mask on. I think we need to come down further with the opacity. That's a nice level. That's adding a sort of a nice feeling of the softness. Let's try, because we're a mid colour, we're not a light or a dark, let's try screen. Hardly any change with the screen. Now that does give it the feeling that it's sort of painted on stone, which is quite nice. Let's try multiply. Well, can't really tell we've got it. Let me take it more and more. Now we've got a nice texture. Now that has given a lovely background, and we've still got a nice bit of difference between the hair and the backdrop. So that's a winner as well. Right, good on concrete. Get rid of concrete. So we've got aged paintwork. Oh my gosh, this one's going to be fun, isn't it? Let's drag up, drag down. Control T for transform, drag on, move it across, drag, double click. What do you reckon? Let's go for soft light. Wow. So if I take that down slightly, you know how oil paintings crack over, like when they've aged? We could put this in, and then I could mask, rather than masking all of her out, we could be really clever and have this feeling of the texture being the painting surface. Because sometimes, you know, when we say we're fine art photographers, it really means that we haven't made our mind up, doesn't it? And we still allow different techniques to come in. So if I gave this a beautifully pretentious title like The Porcelain Doll Cracked and Withered in the Light, or something remarkably up itself, we can get away with having all of the cracks on her skin and that being part of our story. Or it may just be that that's way too arty for you, and we just need to clean the skin over and allow this to be very subtle. Come down with the opacity a bit more in the background, just for that slight feeling, that little leaning towards a Dutch master painting. Certainly an interesting one is the cracked paint, isn't it? Let's drag that away, and we've got our final one, the dog rug. Let's pull the dog rug on. So I could almost say put your hand in the air if you think it's going to work. Hide behind the settee if it's not. Let's just see. Soft light. It's certainly one for giving someone the pox, isn't it? Let's just take that away. It's not doing anything for me. Let's go from soft light into screen. Let's take the opacity down. Well, really far down, so it looks like concrete, possibly. But otherwise, it really distinctly looks like a carpeted wall, which just feels wrong, doesn't it? So let's go from the screen, let's go up into multiply, and let's take our opacity up. Does it work? Now it starts to work. Now it's adding a wonderful background texture and very subtle. So depending how we deal with each texture, some textures are awful on one blend mode and absolutely wonderful on another. The name of the game is don't always pre-guess what it's going to be. Don't think, oh well, I don't like it, it's green. we wouldn't have known that we've got a green texture on here. I mean, the dog's a bit upset because we had to take the blanket off, but he's given a good one, hasn't it? So my summing up is be as experimental and as creative as you can, which means you have to be brave. You have to make mistakes and you have to try and look around and see, is it the opacity? Is it a different blend mode? Or is it just one for the bin if it doesn't work? So don't let times of lockdown stifle your creativity. Let me give you the challenge. My next part 3 is about using all of these textures on a light background. The challenge is to go and find some that work for you on your style of work. And let's see what we come up with. Let's make it a positive experience. So this has been part 2 of Lockdown Textures. I've been Jane Lazenby. I'm a equine and fine art photographer, which means I get away with murder, really. But please join me again. Please view part 3. Keep safe. See you soon. Bye.